thank you guys for coming out today. I invited you out for a few reasons. I wanted to give you some information about the local election. It's really important. And I want to talk about a few issues facing Winterville and tell you about a new project that I'm working on here in Winterville. So before I do that, I do want to give a quick message. My mom wasn't able to be here today, but I just want to say hey to my mom. I hope you feel better. I love you, and I promise I'll come see you over the holidays. So let's talk about the election, because that's really what this is about. There are 4 city council positions total. 2 of those, well actually 3 of those are up for election on November 2nd in 2 separate races. There are 2 4-year terms that are bundled together. And originally 3 people qualified for that, but now there's only 2. Myself and Gary Snow, so we're 2 for 2. So I'd say it's pretty likely we're going to be in. But we still need votes to make it official, and I absolutely want your support. And something interesting happened. After we qualified, Mary Quinn, local city council person, resigned from her position during the middle of her term. That opened up another 2-year term. And so the gentleman, Mark Farmer, who was in my race, and withdrew, qualified for the 2-year term. And then Melissa Metzger also qualified. So we do have a contested race for the 2-year term between Mark Farmer and Melissa Metzger. And I encourage you to find more about those candidates, and make a decision and cast your vote as you see fit. There's something else important on the ballot this year, and that is ESPLOS. ESPLOS is the Education Special Low Cost and Sales Tax. Now, I really think it's a shame that we actually have to fund our schools this way, where we have to ask for sales tax dollars. But that's the reality we live in. And this is about continuing the 1-cent sales tax that we've already been paying for a long time, and our schools really need it. If this passes, it's going to raise $120 million for our local schools. And it's going to pay for things like technology improvements, new buses, capital improvements. There's something on this ESPLOS for every school in the county, including Winterville Elementary. So I really encourage you to vote for this. But there's some sample ballots here where you can read the referendum. And again, as Rusty mentioned, you can scan the QR code and go to my website, and on my election page, I link to a very detailed document on ESPLOS, and it will break down, you can find out exactly where the money's going to go. So I encourage you to do your research and then hopefully vote for this ESPLOS referendum. Now, I also want to talk about early voting. I don't know if you're aware, but early voting started today, and it will run through next week at least. So any day next week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you can vote at various locations around the county. And the closest one to Winterville is the Tennis Center on Lexington Highway. And because we don't have a lot going on in this election, I guarantee you can be in and out of there in 5 minutes. So if you don't want to show up at the depot on November 2nd, just stop by the Tennis Center sometime next week. And if you don't make it, then please do show up on November 2nd and cash your vote. So I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm running and a little bit about myself. So I came here in the early 90s to go to the University of Georgia. Been a dog fan all my life. And I am a graduate of the class of 1994 with a degree in economics. And I do want to mention I am also, I've been a UGA football season ticket holder for almost 30 years. And I do want to say, I think this is our year. Right? We have a well-coached team. Amen. We got a well-coached team, we got a ton of talent, and a heck of a defense. So, go Dogs.
Yeah. Woof, woof, woof.
So anyway, after I graduated, I was fortunate enough to get a decent job. And I now have had a 23-year career in IT with the Board of Regents, who I'm still working for today. And I was able to meet an amazing woman, my wife, who's there on that back table, Jennifer Crane. I love you, and so glad that you're my partner. And although we've only moved to the city limits a few years ago, actually in January 2018, we've been close to and connected to Winterville for a long time. My son Bram is there at that table with the purple hair. As you can see, he's a full-grown adult now, which is kind of crazy because I remember his first birthday party. And his first birthday party was here in Winterville. As a matter of fact, it was right here in this pavilion. One of these tables over here, he absolutely destroyed a chocolate cake. And it was a lot of fun. And we've always enjoyed our time here in Winterville. But it was really when we moved inside the city limits that I became more involved in the community. So if you're wondering why I'm running, it's really about community service. To me, serving on city council is just another form of community service, and that's where my interest lies. It started back in high school, over 30 years ago, as a member of the Key Club, which is a student-led service organization, and that's actually where I, that's where I organized my first volunteer group. I gathered the Key Club members, and we visited the local nursing home where my mom worked to sit and talk to the residents. And that's what we did. We just had conversations with them, asked them questions about their lives, and just heard some of the amazing stories they had to tell. And that's when I realized what a difference you can make if you're just willing to give a few hours of your time. And since then, I've been involved in a number of volunteer programs and service organizations. And I would like to tell you about some of the organizations I'm involved in now. I'm a member of the Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association, SORBA Athens, who they advocate for and help build and maintain multi-use trails in the Athens area. And I was their vice president for a few years, their volunteer coordinator, and I did a lot of fundraising and outreach. I mean, because that's the kind of work that I really enjoy doing. And I took a break from that for a little while. And then when we moved to Winterville, I stood at my driveway and I could see where the Firefly was going to be built. It wasn't here yet, but I knew it was coming, and I knew the impact that it would have on this community. So I decided to get involved and try to help. And so I volunteered. And I'll tell you, if you've done some volunteering with any organization, if you're willing to show up and do the work consistently, before long they're going to ask you to be on the board. Because they want people who will do the work. Not that I don't have any special talent, but I am willing to do the work. And so that's what happened. I'm now on the board of directors for Firefly Trail Incorporated. I'm the chairperson of their Events and Volunteers Committee. I'm also their volunteer coordinator. I run their website, social media, and I do a lot of outreach events. Some of you may have seen me at Firefly tent at some event, because outreach is really important. And again, that's the kind of work that I like to do. I'm also a founding member and current chairperson of the Winterville Firefly Local Action Committee, which is, the idea of local action committees was to have local citizens take ownership of the trail and try to help it reach its full potential. And some of the things we do, several of our members have joined the ACC Trail Ambassadors Program, including my wife and I. And you may have seen us on the trail. She usually has the backpack, and I have the goofy looking trail team yellow t-shirt. And so if you see that, then we're doing our trail ambassador work. And we hike the trail at least 4 hours a month. We pick up trash, and we look for hazards along the trail that we then report to ACC. We have a backpack full of maps and information, first aid kit, and we provide assistance to trail users when needed, and just generally provide friendly presence on the trail. Another thing that we do in the Local Action Committee, we're working on making recommendations to the Marion City Council about how to improve the trail. And I'll tell you about some things that we're about to recommend to the Marion City Council. We want to see more benches along the trail, more trash and recycling receptacles. We hope to have a bike repair station at the depot. And we hope we can even get a little shelter down at the southern end. So let's say you just want to take a break in a little shady area, or maybe you get caught in a storm and you need a break. So it's just some of the things that we're working on. And in addition to that, with my work with the Firefly Trail, I'm also a member of the Civitan Club here in Winterville, which is a local service organization. And we do hands-on volunteer work, including picking up trash on Main Street. We help out neighbors in need. We fund local projects that are good for the community. And also on a regional and even international level, we fund projects that help people with developmental disabilities. And it's a great local organization, and if you have any interest in joining us, talk to me about it. I'd love to talk to you more about that. And another organization I'm part of here in Winterville that has done a lot of good work is the Winterville Citizens Advisory Committee. And I started serving on that committee in 2018. And what we do on that committee is make recommendations for projects that could benefit the community that can be funded by SPLOST and T-SPLOST. And we solicit proposals from the police department, fire department, public works, and any citizen can make a proposal. Any one of you could bring a proposal to the Citizens Advisory Committee. And if we think it's going to be good for the committee, we will put that on the list of projects that we recommend to the Marion City Council. And we take all those projects and then we prioritize them and give those recommendations to the Marion City Council. And I'll give you an example of some of the things that we've recommended that the Marion City Council are now doing. You might notice the improved crosswalks on Main Street. Those were one of the projects that we not only recommended, made a priority. You see that's happening now. We have a pedestrian refuge. There's going to be flashing lights installed there. And soon we're going to have a new, safer crosswalk here on Parkview. Some of the other things that we recommended that have been funded is our new fire truck for the volunteer fire department, some safety equipment for the fire department and the police department. And those are the kind of things that we've recommended, and now the mayor and city council have actually funded. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And you know, speaking of volunteering and community service, I do want to take a minute to thank people who volunteered. Andrew Waskowitz was right here. He cooked all the hot dogs today while I was getting ready. My friend Mike Bradshaw, who is also the owner of the Grill in Athens, which is he smoked that delicious beef brisket you guys can have, which literally is fantastic. It literally stopped me in my tracks when I took the first bite earlier today. And I also want to thank my wife, Jen, my son, Graham, his girlfriend, Sonia. And there are a couple people who couldn't be here today but really played a part, and that is Sean Ryder, Star Scott, and Dan Roth. And Dan Roth, by the way, runs Athens Creative Design. And he's the guy who designed my logos. You see on these t-shirts, and you may have seen on some signs around town. He also designed the flyer. So I really appreciate the help and support that they've given me. And I've also been fortunate enough to get support from some local community leaders. I've had support from Dot Farrell, Amanda Mooney, Brenda Keene, Mary Quinn, and many other folks here in Winterville and beyond, and I really appreciate everyone's help. So let me talk about just a few issues that I think are important to Winterville. And you can find those on my platform as well. Again, these QR codes, or just go to brucewinterville.com. There's lots of information there about the election, my platform, ways to contact me, and you can also see some of the other community service projects that I've been involved in. So, Winterville is growing and changing. And as it does, I want to see us have sustainable growth and jobs. Because, with Winterville growing and changing, some people are excited, but also concerned. And I'm a little bit of both. Because on the commercial side, we do need more businesses in Winterville because we need more revenue for the city. And I hope we can bring in some businesses that also bring in good jobs that actually pay a living wage. That's really important. And on the residential side, we have some new residential developments that have been proposed, and there's been some feedback from citizens that have gotten those changed a little bit because they didn't quite fit in Winterville. And that's really important that all these developments that we bring in actually fit the character of Winterville. So I think we can still grow and change without changing that fundamental character, and that's really important. And I also think on the residential side that when we can, we should look for ways to both promote and encourage affordable housing options. So another important issue to me that is part of my platform is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now what does that mean? To me, that means that everyone should feel welcome in Winterville. And by that, I mean everyone regardless of their race, their religion, their culture, their sexual orientation, or their socioeconomic status. Can someone bring me a bottle of water or a Sprite or something? I'm parched. Because I think diversity we are a very diverse community, and diversity is one of our strengths. And as we grow and change, I want to make sure that we don't lose that. And I'm going to work hard to make sure that doesn't happen. Another issue that's really important to me is bike and pedestrian safety and access. And this is where Winterville's small size is actually an advantage, right? We're less than 2 miles from, pardon me. So, from one city limit sign to the other, it's less than 2 miles. And you can go to any point in Winterville and be less than 1 mile from the firefly trail. And I hear a lot of people talk about how Winterville is a walkable community. And that's true to an extent. Because we do have this great firefly trail corridor in the middle of town that a lot of people make use of. But the problem is we have a lot of neighborhoods in Winterville that don't have a safe way to walk or bike to the firefly trail, or to walk or bike to this park, or to the 5 Points Business District. And that's what needs to change. The good news is the mayor and city council are already working on it. There is a complete streets plan in the works now, and it's soon to be released for public input. And the Complete Streets Plan is a partnership between the city and the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. And the idea is to add more trails that connect these communities together, or the neighborhoods within this community. And that means more natural surface trails, more pedestrian sidewalks, and more multi-use trails. And I'm going to tell you, anyone that talks to me knows how I feel about multi-use trails. I think that's the way to go, because here in Winterville, we don't have really wide streets where we can have safe bike lanes. So where feasible, I'd like to see more multi-use trails that connect all these neighborhoods together and to the resources they need, and to the Firefly Trail. And as I said, we're already working on that. That's something that I look forward to working with the Mayor and Commission on. And lastly, I want to talk to you about a new project that I've started doing. And if anyone that's been around me the last few months already knows about it, I've probably talked their ear off about it. But it's called 100% Winterville. And the goal of 100% Winterville is the just and equitable conversion of the City of Winterville government to 100% clean and renewable across the board. I think it's the right thing to do, and it's the right time to do it for a few reasons. But how do we get there? So there's two sides of it, right? There's the consumption side, and we're already making some progress there. We have projects where we're retrofitting a lot of our incandescent light bulbs. We're fixing some of the insulation issues, and we're working on the HVAC at the community center, which is our biggest power consumer. So we're working on the consumption side, but we also need to harvest more clean and renewable energy to offset what we take from the power grid. And today, the way to do that is solar. And I'm already working on some solar projects. The first one that I would like to see get done is I want to see a solar array installed on the Marigold Auditorium that will power the Marigold Auditorium and the community center. And as part of that, I've already reached out to some solar companies that have come out. You know, we climbed up on the roof, we've done the site survey, and they're currently working on proposals for the city for that project. And another thing that I was hoping I would have some good news to tell you that we got this grant, but we haven't got the news on it, that we've actually got it yet. But we learned about the grant. I actually learned about it through my connections with the ACC Sustainability Office. And we actually learned about that grant at 5:30 on Thursday. Well, we learned about the deadline at 5:30. We learned about the grant on Wednesday. So this is literally 5:30 on Thursday. I get the call back, and she's answering questions, and I'm like, okay, we're going to get started. She says, okay, well, get together whatever you have. Just make sure you get it in by 5 o'clock tomorrow. What? What did you just say? I said, yeah, the grant deadline's tomorrow. She said, but it's okay. He said, you know, gather all the information you have, and maybe we can fill in the blanks later. So I gave Dodd a call after hours. He's at home with his family. And if you know Dodd, his reaction or his response wouldn't surprise you. His first words out of his mouth was, let's go for it and tell me what you need me to do. So I took the day off the next day and spent the day with Dodd in his office. And the deadline was 5 o'clock, and we got official confirmation that we had submitted that grant at 3:13 p.m. So we're hoping to get the news this week, and we've got some sort of positive feedback. We hope we get this grant. And if we do get this grant, it will pay for the majority of the cost of that solar project, at least 75%, depending on our demographic score, maybe as much as 85%. And that would be huge for the city. Another project that I want to work on that's coming up next is solar cannabis. If you're not familiar with solar cannabis, it's a great idea because what you do is you install a solar array on top of parking spaces. So you don't have to dedicate any additional land for the solar array. You just install it on top of existing parking spaces, and as an added bonus, you get shaded parking. I've reached out to the Georgia Climate Coalition, who's done some work on this, to try to get a cost breakdown and put together a smaller proposal. Because I'd like that to be part of the Complete Streets program we're doing here. Because in addition to the trails that we're going to build, we're also going to do add more parking spaces. And I'd like to see some of those parking spaces have solar cannabis. So, and the reason I'm doing this, like I said, I really do think this is the right time to do it, and it's the right thing for our community. But it's a big project, and I'm going to need some support. So as these projects come up for vote, I hope you guys will contact the mayor and city council and let them know that this is something we really support. You know, because we're known as the city of marigolds, and we're known as a little city. But in a few years, we're going to be known as the little green city. And that's my vision. So, we talked about sustainable growth. We talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We talked about life, pedestrian safety, and access. And we talked about 100% Winterville and sustainability. And those are some things that I really want to work on. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers, but I will tell you that I'm willing to do the work. Anything that comes on my desk needs my vote. I can tell you that I will be making a well-informed decision on what's best for me. Because I'm here today, not because I want to be a politician. You probably have noticed my slight nervousness because I'm not a public speaker and I'm not a politician. The reason I'm doing this is community service. I want to help make things happen that will have a positive impact on this community. And I know that I can do that if I have your support. So please enjoy some food and music. And I do want to tell you, if you want more music, the Front Porch Bookstore has their last concert tonight at 6 o'clock. And they also have their $5 book bag sale today. And it's all a fundraiser for our local library. So you can get a $5 bag of books that can then in turn help get books for other people in the community. So I encourage you, when this is over, to go over to the Front Porch Bookstore. I'm going to stop by and listen to bluegrass music. And so please remember to vote. If you can vote early, you can vote at the Tennis Center any day, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if you can't make it to the Tennis Center, then make sure that you show up at the depot on November 2nd. And again, thank you for coming out.